Good evening. Welcome to Veterans Corner. I'm Ruben Treviso of the American GI Forum. This evening we have two special guests. Danny Garcia, a Purple Heart recipient, wounded Vietnam veteran who served in Vietnam from 66 to 68. Joe Romo, also a Vietnam vet. We would like to maybe begin with the historical perspective of the role of Hispanics in America's defense. We have a couple of exhibits we'd like to show. So I'd ask Danny, can you please share with us the things that you brought to the show?
Thank you, Ruben. What I have here is the discharge papers of my great-great-grandfather, Santa Fe, New Mexico Volunteers, 1862. May 1st, 1862, he was discharged from the New Mexico Volunteers of Santa Fe, New Mexico. He lost his hearing. He was a sergeant. His name was Clemente Arrogan. He served under Captain Rafael Ortiz, who was under the command of Conley, a famous place in famous captain rather. This discharge papers is very significant insofar as it's a part of American history that's very seldom referred to or even acknowledged. There was a major battle up in Ruidoso, New Mexico, with the Texas rebel southern unit that had come up to Albuquerque, and the Union Army were able to take them out and move them out and send them back down to Texas. It's a major battle, and it's something that's very special. I always think of whenever the New Year's Pasadena parade comes on, the Rose Parade, I always think of the Hispanic American or Mexican American recognized for their participation in the Civil War. On the right here, I have a picture, a photograph. This is General Reagan Fuller, and there's about 7 of us here who had come back from Vietnam, and I was awarded 2 Purple Hearts for combat wounds sustained in the Republic of South Vietnam. Here is a picture here of Geo Lin, and the gentleman next to me was named Carl B. Sally. Sally was from Trenton, New Jersey, and I found out 5 years ago that he died of a heroin overdose in Trenton, New Jersey. And here is the same place, Geo Lin in Vietnam. Geo Lin was the closest American outpost, Allied outpost to North Vietnam. That separated the DMZ from the north and the south. And here we had captured a North Vietnamese soldier. And so I keep these and I'm passing them on to my grandchildren, and historic background. And so it's an honor to be in fellow veterans.
A lot of veterans have major difficulties in applying for their benefits. Well, the great example of getting things done is Danny Garcia and Joe Romo. Joe Romo is the Veteran Service Officer for AMVETS. And Danny Garcia, could you please explain the difficulties that you've had throughout the years in trying to get service, being denied service, and the battles in which Joe Romo came in to help you?
1968, when I came home from Vietnam, I went to the Veterans Administration in LA, was represented by the Westwood branch. I was seen by doctors and evaluated, and that was it. I ended up, I think, with a 10% disability for wounds sustained in Vietnam. In 1971, under the Richard Nixon administration Emergency Employment Act, federal, state, and county governments were to hire minorities, Vietnam veterans, because the Nixon administration was finally recognizing the fact that minorities had participated immensely in the Vietnam War. I went to work for LA County Mechanical Department on an apprenticeship program, electrician apprenticeship. The first 6 months, I was brought in to a review board in downtown LA, and I was told that they wanted to fire me because my hands were too small. I didn't have the manual dexterity to work with tools. I had tried to get a job with LAPD, LA County Sheriff's, but again, there was a height requirement there. I had 5'2". You had to be 5'8". So I took them on in a civil class action suit, and in '74 I ended up in the mental hospital. I was taking 250 milligrams of Thorazine, 200 milligrams of Cerex, Valiums. Those were the psychotropic meds of that period, and no one knew, nor did I. I attempted suicide on Whittier Boulevard and turned myself into the hospital, and eventually I was retired and awarded a pension from LA County. However, post-traumatic stress was never recognized. I used heroin, cocaine, meth, marijuana, PCP. I could put away a half pint of Bacardi 151 in one swallow. When I finally bottomed out, I was drinking 10 Long Island iced teas a day. I was working for a liquor company, Simon Levi, and I was taking the cocaine and the drinks. And finally, it was over, and I knew that. And so I turned myself in, and that was it. I went through recovery. And the thing that people find amazing, and so do I was never arrested nor ever detained. And, I still have my issues. I deal with them on a daily basis. I ended up, believe it or not, ending up to become a parole agent for the state of California. Because I had never been arrested or detained for narcotics or any use, I was cleared to go. And it was shocking because everyone who knew me couldn't believe that I would end up in law enforcement. And I went on to be very successful in rehabilitating people, but I was still avoiding my issues. And a lot of that I attribute to the survival, the Marine Corps training, my military training was, you're only a victim one time, and after that you volunteer. But I was depressed. I went through a lot of depression, and still do. I have those valleys and hills and valleys, and it's a tough time. It's not something that I don't seek anyone's empathy, not in my lifetime, nor do I seek anyone's sympathy, not in their lifetime. And I was told one day to go see this guy Joe Romo down at the VA Center in Alameda. And, I laughed. I literally laughed. I said, yeah, right. I don't want anything to do with the VA or any representatives from the VA, whether it's Purple Hearts or any of the organizations. I thought it was a joke, the politics, because of the rejection and the suffering that I had gone through with the VA. I mean, it was just, it was overwhelming. My poor wife, she stood by me through it all. So I came home and I told my wife, they told me to go meet this guy, Joe Romo. And she says, again? Are you going to go through this again? I said, well, you know what? I'm going to go down there, and I'll be damned. I had never witnessed such a committed individual outside the Veterans Administration who was good to go right from the start. The minute I walked in, he had a smile on his face. He was embracing. He was motivating. And he said flat out, you know what? You owe them nothing. It's about what they didn't pay you, and we're going to get it back for you. And lo and behold, Mr. Romo, through his tenacity, through his expertise, through his level-headedness, I moved on in my percentile, and I'm still on meds. I still deal with my issues, but I'm so appreciative of Mr. Romo. Whenever I'm around him, it brings a smile to my face and a disbelief. And because of him, I've sought my friends who also have gone through this, and they did the same thing. They didn't believe me. They went to Joe Romo, and he's turned their whole lives around. It's unbelievable. I've lost friends from suicide, Vietnam veterans to suicide, overdoses, to testicular cancer, respiratory diseases, and it's amazing to see Joe Romo do what he does and how he does it, and his commitment and sincerity. You don't find any better.
Every day, 25 veterans commit suicide. Yet there is a solution. Yet there is a way. Yet people can win over their demons. Joe, how do you do it? How did you take on the system and enable Danny to get his percentage ratings up and keep him going and keep him alive?
Well, Ruben, and Danny, I appreciate the words of gratitude, of course. And I've been at this for many, many, many years, as you well know, Ruben. My perspective on any veteran that walks through my door, and I tell this to them when they're sitting there, what I do is I turn the table. I put myself where they're sitting. And the question I ask is, how do I want to be treated? It's a no-brainer. You see these guys, they have problems, and through the whole aspect of it all, they get discouraged, they get disillusioned, because some of these places where we all have to frequent, whether we like it or not, some of them aren't veteran friendly. And if these people are working in these places that's supposed to take care of us, I don't see, quite frankly, I don't see anybody really making an effort to make it better. If anything, it's gotten worse over the years. When Dan came to me, he was in bad shape, really bad shape. And when a person comes in to my office like that, my first thing is, what avenues are we going to take so this individual can get better? What part do I play in this? Well, the part is that I take the time to interview the individual, get the information that I need. So when a veteran comes in, they don't know what to expect. Dan didn't know what to expect. He came in apprehensive, I'll agree, yes he did. But I was able to get him to understand that there were people in the system that really cared. I happen to be one of them. I come from a family, as you well know, Ruben, on my dad's side of the family. Everybody served. In World War II, my Uncle Tony, my dad, Joe Sr., and my uncle Al. World War II, my Uncle Al in the European theater, my Uncle Tony, my dad in the Pacific theater. And and then Korea broke out, and my oldest cousin, my cousin Ernie, and my dad's youngest brother, my cousin Augie, my Uncle Augie, excuse me, my Uncle Augie and my cousin Ernie, they went to Korea and they came back. And then there was 4 of us that ended up in Vietnam. First one to go was my cousin Frank Aragon. Frank, he's a hero in our family. He's just a very highly decorated veteran, and he set the course for us, guys that went after him. After him was my cousin Pete, and then after my cousin Pete was my cousin Augie Jr. And then, of course, I was the last one to go in Vietnam, so I was there. And what we went through was inexplicable, for lack of a better term. Inexplicable, Ruben. And you know that, Dan. I mean, some of us went through some harder stuff than other guys, depending on the time that you were there. I have a real big heart for anybody that was there during this 1968 Tet Offensive. These guys went through some real hard times. And especially now, with these Vietnam vets coming in, they're coming out of the woodworks. On my caseload, I would say that about 60 to 70% are Vietnam vets. The rest, Korea, World War II, Afghanistan, and Iraq, and some guys from Desert Storm come in too. But to me, we're not asking for handouts here. By no stretch of the imagination is there a handout here. This is something that each individual earned. They earned it. It wasn't given to it. We're not asking with our hands out. We're not standing panhandling out in the middle of in the middle of an intersection or to the entrance of a freeway. That's not what it's about. What it's about is something that we earned. And when I can remember through the whole time I was in the United States Air Force, we were always reminded that we were the luckiest people in the world because we were going to be taken care of by our government. Far from being true, okay? Far from being true. Danny's a perfect example of this. Turned down, degraded, looked at as if he was a second-class citizen. On top of that, he had issues. So what? That's what the VA was there for. It was established so that we as veterans would get the best health care that we could find, both physically, in the physical sense, and in the mental health sense.
Tell me about the local veterans hospitals.
Oh, geez.
How are they treating veterans?
Oh, my-
We hear national news across the country about things taking place in Phoenix and throughout other parts of the country. What is the measurement of service? What is the level of care for veterans at the local level, at the local hospitals?
At the local level, Ruben, we have a lot of problems. Much, especially here in Los Angeles at the West LA VA Medical Center, Sepulveda VA Medical Center, or clinic, downtown VA clinic has its problems, and so does San Diego, the VA Medical Center. But right now, the focus is going on West LA after they did what they did with Phoenix. We are getting very, very poor care. You could go. Let me give you an example. Before I was transferred over to the outpatient clinic in downtown Los Angeles, I was at the West LA VA Medical Center, and I saw firsthand how our veterans were treated. I saw firsthand what had to be done in order for us to get better. And if you will, I was the rebel of the service officers because I put my face in anybody's face when I felt that a veteran was being mistreated. I really didn't care if they liked it or not. My thing was, what are we going to do to make it better for these individuals? The VA, West LA, has got to be one of the worst medical clinics or services that I've ever seen. It's appalling. One day, I was coming to work. I used to get there about 7:30, 8 o'clock. Actually, about 7:30. And I was driving into the parking area, and here were all these yellow tapes cordoning off an area. There was I guess for lack of a better word, they had this guy covered. Well, the thing was, this guy kept on coming to the West Los Angeles VA Medical Center asking for the help that he desperately needed. He kept on getting the runaround and the runaround and the runaround. He walked in one day, tried to get some services. I guess they ignored him. So he walked right back out, went to the side where this little tree is in the grassy area in front of the VA Medical Center and blew his brains out. Right there.
Yeah.
Is this what we expect from the Sacred Trust? A sacred trust that was given to us back in the Revolutionary War. It was established then that any veteran that served our country was going to be well taken care of. That sacred trust has been torn apart. It has been ignored. It has been spit on. And I can say a few other things, but I won't because we're on TV, on television here. But I got to tell you, the sacred trust is no longer a sacred trust. It is now a joke. It is now a joke.
How do we fix it, Joe? What needs to be done to fix it?
You know, I think every veteran that's out there watching this and listening to this, I am developing right now, Ruben, a protest, not one that's going to be out of hand, but a peaceful protest to get as many veterans as we can, their families, their friends, every veterans organization, all the big ones, American Legion, VFW, DAV, AMVETS, VVA, and then all those little small grassroots organizations out there. And you're out there. And we have to show force, we have to show unity. If we don't, we're going to end up losing every little thing that we can get. As it is, we have to take a means test. That means test is telling us, well, did you make too much money last year? And if you did, sorry, you can't get medical services. What's that all about? We put our behinds on the line. They told us they were going to take care of us, and all of a sudden, we have to pass a test that says, okay, you don't make more than this much. There's a threshold, right? Some like, for a single guy, it's like 24 grand. For a couple, it goes up to about 32. It's amazing how the idiocy that controls the VA itself going on with the VA today brings to mind what a lot of us have said to each other when we walk around and we talk to each other in the hallways or when we're advanced. They're waiting for us to die so they won't have to pay us.
Absolutely.
They're
Euthanasia.
waiting for us to die.
It's a euthanasia mentality.
Exactly.
Is that what's happening now nationally?
Nationally, it's not just here in Los Angeles, it's in New York. It's in Phoenix.
Texas.
It's in Texas.
Colorado.
It's in Colorado. It's
Tennessee.
in Utah. It's in Washington State. It's in Rhode Island.
Yeah.
They have taken the sacred trust and have torn it apart. You know, the president the other day when he was on television talked about the sacred trust.
Yeah.
What sacred trust?
Yeah.
There is no longer a sacred trust. If you got individuals dying because they're not given the proper services as they're supposed to be given, then there is something truly wrong.
You know.
To wait for a guy has to wait. There have been people waiting. There have been veterans waiting for them to get approved for a service-connected disability. What are we talking about? 4 years?
Yeah.
I know of guy. My gosh, how can you wait 4 years for a guy that earned what he's got? That's a travesty.
Yeah. I got to tell you, I've been appalled. I've gone through some heavy depression in the last week or so. I'm up till 3, 4, 5 in the morning in my room, and I'm appalled because all these senators, all these congressmen, and everybody we're going to do for the vet because of what happened in Phoenix. And I sit back and I think, oh my God, man, the ignorance of society that this has been going on from '68, and when I came home, and now all of a sudden we have this crisis. Well, you know what? I had a friend named Larry Ramirez, not the same one we grew up with, but he had come to my house, and he was depressed, and my wife noticed, and I was doing some stuff, and he wanted to help me, and I said, I can do it. So he left, and the next day his mother called me, and he blew his brains out, and we knew, and I had said, go to the veterans, I won't go, but you should try, and he didn't go, and he ended up blowing his brains out. But to see what's happening right now in the Capitol about, what happened in Phoenix, well, and I'll bet you of the 40, I'll bet you 36, you notice they haven't mentioned where they were Vietnam veterans, or they're not going to go there. No. But see, we're the guinea pigs. We came back from the war. The World War II veterans, God bless them, however, they had an attitude. We were crybabies. We were losers. Right. And so they fought us tooth and nail. Now they passed on the Korean veteran who really got the shaft. They took over and they were more empathetic. And now we have the Vietnam veterans in control, and we're now finally opening the doors. But why so long? And it's a euthanasia. They were waiting for us to die off. Right. In 1986, they estimated 730,000 veterans post-traumatics. They were doctors, lawyers, well-to-do professionals by then. Right. And they had estimated 736,000 in 1986. And I thought, oh my God, in 1974, I was on another planet. I hated, I came home, I couldn't even come back to East LA because I was a vendido, because I went and fought the white man's war, and then I went to work for LA County with the Anglos, and my hands were too small. I didn't have them. They wanted to fire me. And even one telling me, why don't you go back to where you came from, And Mexico, hey, I'm from New Mexico. My family, we were here before you were. I've traced my family back to the 14th century on my father's side. So all these things, the frustration, the agony, and the despair, and I think the worst thing of all is, somebody in his office once told me, you know what's wrong with you Marines and all you combat veterans? He says, you're machismo. Whenever you go to the VA, you can hang, you can handle, and you don't want to show that real men do cry. And you know what? The light went on. It's true, because I can remember going to the VA saying, "Oh yeah, I can," and yet I was mortally wounded. But my machismo said, "No, you can't go there," And when we talk about the hospitals now, I got to tell you, I go to Long Beach, okay, and with a lot of apprehension and a lot of anxiety. There's a couple of people down there, they got to go, okay, but yet I have a Dr. Jenkins, who's my medical, and I got to tell you, he called me at 7:30, 8 o'clock at night and spent a half hour with me on the phone, diagnosing me and with my updating me on my meds, and I broke down. And I told him, you know what?
Let me share a little something with you, Danny. Not to bring up the Long Beach VA. My dad was...
Let him continue.
Go ahead, I'm sorry, Danny.
No. So, I see the good and the bad, you know, and and a lot of the bad, in my opinion, at the VA centers are this lower echelon people.
Exactly.
You know, I asked to get a Xerox copy of my monthly visits there, and the guy in the counter says, "We don't do that here." And I said, "You have a Xerox machine right there, sir." He says, "We don't do that here. That's on you." And I said, "What?" He said, "I'll tell you what, I'll do it this time, but don't ever ask me again." And he's just, you know, this guy threw me out the door.
Yeah.
And I thought, you know what, you SOB, I want to light him up, but my wife was pulling me by the shirt. And that's the attitude many of the lower echelon has. They could care less. You're just another number. Attitude, terrible attitude, reception, and we're not asking for anything. And the thing about military training, we give them yes sir, no sir, yes ma'am, no. We still do that. And there's lots of times I'd like to, you know, put something in front of that. But that's the way it is. What, Joe?
Well, you know, I was going to go back to your experience in Long Beach VA, because for me, I've had 6 different surgeries, and they've all been in Long Beach. And I got to tell you, the last one that I had was a reduction of my prostate, and I can't begin to tell you. The surgeon that did the surgery, she was a female. I forget her name, but she was like really, really good. After the surgery, you know, I had to spend the night. She came in. It was about 7:30, 8 o'clock. She wanted to see how I was doing, and she came in and she did a washout through the
Right.
catheter that I was wearing, that they had me on, and she made sure that every little bit of, she didn't want any blood clots getting into my system.
Right.
So she washed it out.
Committed.
They're committed with a general concern.
Right.
But what about the rest of them?
No.
What about, no, see, that's the problem is, you're right, Dan, you're right. The problem is the lower echelon.
Right.
I had a bad experience in West LA. I went to go get my meds at the pharmacy, and I got a ration of crap. I mean, a real ration. And I stood there and I looked at this individual, and I asked him, "Did you ever serve in the United States military?" "Well, no." I said, "Well, then if you didn't serve in the military, what gives you the right to treat me that way?
Right.
What gives you the right to talk to any?" I saw how you talked to the last 2 guys that were in front of me. Do you think that's respectful? I'll tell you what, let me talk to your supervisor, and I want to talk to him now.
Yeah.
Never got to see the supervisor.
You're
Why?
not going to.
And you're not going to, because they don't care.
They don't care. You know what? Handle it.
Handle it.
Right.
But you know what? Now, with this, you know, right now, everybody's go, "Oh, well, I got my thing done in 100 days."
Right.
Well, yeah, when somebody's lighting a fire under your rear end,
Right.
with all this stuff that's going on,
Right.
you know, of course they're going to do that. They're going to appease us, but that's only going to last for a little while, because once that fire goes out, they're going to go right back to what they were doing before. You know this, Dan. You know it, Ruben. I know it.
Joe,
So what are we going to do?
How do you light the fire?
How do we
How
light
do you
the
get
fire?
them to moving?
Programs like this. Programs like this. Community-based, organized
Exactly.
programs on the TV
Right.
and alert the community,
Right.
make them
Right.
conscious,
Yeah.
you know, get them out of the, you know, the voice, get them out, you know, hey, you know what? You better start dealing with realities, because the fantasies are going to bury you.
Okay, what I'm going through right now, what I'm developing right now, for the veterans, is for their families, their friends, everybody that's interested, even those people that just have a heart for the veteran. We're putting together, or I'm putting together, I'm developing this. It's going to be called the Restoration of the Sacred Trust. It's a peaceful demonstration, a demonstration that's going to show force, it's going to show unity. This is what we lack it right now in the veterans community. We've never had it. If the American Legion isn't in charge, the VFW wants to be in charge.
Right.
If it's
Here we
not
go, the
VFW,
politics.
VVA wants to be in charge.
Thank you.
Navy wants to be in charge. You know, put that out to the side, people.
Egos.
Egos are. When you get into when you're going to go to this demonstration, leave your ego at home.
Thank you.
Because we don't need this.
Whenever you, I've said it all along, Joe, and so forth and so on. I wanted to go back. My daughter was a nurse.
Joe's doctor.
Yeah.
My doctor.
My daughter's a nurse, and she took her boyfriend who had sustained a brain injury in the Marine Corps.
Yeah.
And she took him to the West LA, and they were sitting there and waiting. And my daughter got up and says, "You know, we've been here 45 minutes and nobody's talked to us." And the lady says, "Well, you're just gonna have to wait." And my daughter said, okay. She gave him 15 more minutes. She said, let me tell you something. I'm a nurse, okay? And your attitude is beyond. You know what? I need to see your administrators because this is a patient out here and he doesn't have all the abilities to stand up for himself because of the impairments. And I'm here as his advocate. And I am a nurse. And I tell you, I understand my father more than ever now about why he doesn't want to come to this place. You know, it's unreal.
It's very unreal.
When you talked about the euthanasia taking place to veterans now, it took 20 years to win the Agent Orange lawsuit.
Exactly.
In the courts, do we have to go to the courts to get better treatment?
No, we don't have to. We just have to show the unity. We have to show that we have what it takes. That whatever is coming to us is something that we all earned. Why go to the court system when it can be fixed by us? The court system isn't going to do anything for us other than make it go longer and longer and longer.
They appeal.
So instead of going through the appeal process and going through the judicial system, we have the power. When I say we, I'm talking about a united home front of the veterans looking for the sacred trust to be restored. That's all we want to do. We want the respect back. We want the United States of America to understand that without her defenders, we wouldn't have what we have. We only make up. My understanding is we only make up 1% of the populace of the United States. But if it wasn't for that 1%, we wouldn't be doing what we're doing here today. We wouldn't have half the things that are going on for us today. The freedom of speech, the freedom to practice religion as we like. All those things that were promised to us in the Constitution of the United States pertain to us. We are the defenders of this Constitution. We are the defenders of what goes on in this country. And you're going to treat us like we're second-hand citizens? Come on, man. This is not acceptable to me, to you, or anybody out there. It is not. And I'm one of those guys that is an advocate, a true advocate. You know, I don't have a problem in dealing with the veteran on a one-to-one basis because I do this every day. Every day, on the average, I see between 40 and 45 individuals a day. A day. I put in a 9-hour day. I go from 7 o'clock in the morning till about 4, sometimes 4:30. I'm tired when I get home. But you know what? It's worth it. Because it's worth it to see a guy like Danny get that satisfaction of knowing that somebody actually cared. I go through this, and I get guys stopping me in the hallway. Joe, you got me my pension. You got me that extra 40%. You got me my unemployability. You know, it's not that hard to do if you put your mind to it. You just gotta learn where the ins and outs are of everything that we have.
How do we train people to become like you, advocates, as we bring them into the system?
It has to come from within the individual. The individual has to say, hey, you know what? I've done this and I retired from this, or I've done this and I want to do this. I want to represent people. See, for me, I can't go in front of people now and take them on because, you know, my anxiety level kicks in, my anger kicks in, and my profanity kicks in, and the frustration. You know, I have a daughter with lupus. I have another one with Graves' disease, and another one with psych problems. You know, we never had any.
Vietnam related?
See, that's what's in question. We never had any of that in my family. I'm with Agent Orange. Okay,
Agent Orange
yeah,
related?
and yet now I have 2 autistic grandsons. We never had any of this in my family. None in my family. And all of a sudden, my offspring, and I was the only one out of 8 that went to Vietnam. Okay, and all my grandchildren are being impacted some way or another. My daughters have been impacted, but you know, and I keep saying, you know, it's got to be. What else?
Isn't that attributable to Agent Orange?
That's
From
my
the
point.
research I've seen.
I have brothers that went into the military, but never went to Vietnam. I went to Vietnam, and I've got and their children are nowhere near like mine. They have all these disabilities now, and none of my you know, it's not there.
Have you filed claims, or can you file claims on behalf of the children and grandchildren, Joe?
Well, you know, the sad part about the Agent Orange presumptives, that's what they call them. The only presumptive that the U.S. government, i.e. the VA, will recognize is spina bifida. You know, spina bifida. You know, yeah, okay. But what about those babies that were born in our era,
right,
with defects, you know, missing limbs,
right,
deaf, autistic,
yep,
just a slew of things because they were dropping this stuff directly on top of us. It wasn't just spread around the jungles.
We saw what thalidomide did, right?
Yeah, exactly.
We saw what thalidomide did.
So here,
Right.
we're being, it's a mist coming down on you. They're telling you it's like the Dow Medical Company, the Dow
Right.
Chemical Company, the biggest maker of the Agent Orange
Right,
chemical.
right.
And then on top of that, they just weren't throwing Agent Orange out there. There was Agent Blue and Agent White.
So we're talking about 3 generations already being affected.
Absolutely.
By your service in Vietnam.
Absolutely. There's no doubt in my mind. But, by the time I'm dead, maybe. But then my kids won't be eligible, will they?
No, they won't.
Because I'm gone.
You're gone.
So it's a game of patience. Look at the Iraqi veterans that came home with that disease that they claimed it was relative to the radiation of the
Radiation from the
they fought them left and right. Camp Lejeune, I was at Camp Lejeune, the water.
Oh, my
Okay,
God.
I have a friend. And I can't get him done. He had cancer, and
there
he
was
was with
lead
me.
poisoning in the water.
The
wasn't
water was
there?
poisoned, and the Marine Corps found him left and right. And they finally had to, They finally had to submit.
Right.
So it's cover up, politics.
Right.
You know?
And the amazing thing about that Camp Lejeune water stuff, because I'm a service officer,
Right.
the very first person that came to me was a female Marine. No lupus in her family, either side. How did she get it?
Huh?
We don't know.
Right. But she was at
But
Lejeune.
she was at Lejeune.
Right.
But now they're going crazy because now the registry that they have is gone nuts. They have tripled in size since they came out.
Oh yes.
And it continues. And there are and see, it's like the Agent Orange. They're going to have to come up with some kind of presumptive.
Oh yeah.
So my understanding is that when I asked the VA official, well, how do we deal with the Camp Lejeune water thing? Well, they take it on a case
By case.
basis.
It's a case-by-case basis.
Yes.
Case by
yeah,
case
yeah.
basis. How are you going to do that?
Yeah.
You mentioned that female Marine.
Yeah.
Since 1990, over 2 million women have served in the armed forces.
Right.
2 million. And yet, we're going to start seeing this more and more.
Oh yeah, we're definitely going to see more and more.
What do we see that in population? What are the distinct differences from the male population that you're seeing?
Those measurements can only be recognized by experts who are making a commitment to find out.
Right.
And I haven't heard of anyone yet in the scientific community. But I'll be damned if we're not putting money out for global warming.
Right,
I'll be
exactly.
damned if we're not going to give monies to those that have not served this country and came across illegally. I love them, but hey, I got problems, man. This thing here in Kentucky, they shut down the rehab center, the swimming pool, because they ran out of money. But yet they gave $1 million of bonuses. That's
In
incredible.
the VA system?
In Kentucky.
And that's the sad part is that's why they doctor up all their records and all
Yeah.
that because bonuses are being paid out.
That's right.
And because they want to show the higher ups,
Right.
oh, we're taking care of our guys. Look at
Performance. Here's the measurement. Here's the facts.
Here you go.
Right.
And then we turn around and find out that that's not even the real one. The real one's put to the side.
Thank you.
And that's when they got found out. That's what we're having the problem we're having today.
See, it's that old thing, facts, man. Everybody says, oh, it's a game of numbers, facts, okay? And they'll present their facts, right? And they're covering up, but they'll present their facts and hawk it off as truth. And when in reality, man, in the final analysis, facts are the enemies of truth, okay? So what they want to hawk off as truth, facts disprove that. We see it all the time.
Okay, let's go back to the Vietnam War because that's very important, associated itself with what's happening now. The Navy. Let's take the Navy for instance. Now they have under the Agent Orange presumptives, they have divided the naval forces in 2 parts: brown water, blue water.
Right.
What's the difference?
Thank you.
What's the difference?
How did
It's
those
airborne.
chemicals get over there?
It's airborne.
Yeah, right.
Not only that, but the aircraft that these guys were servicing,
Right.
that were on the aircraft carriers
Right.
and all that stuff, they were cleaning them.
Right.
They were handling them, rearming them.
Right.
What makes anybody think that the residuals coming off of the Agent Orange isn't going to get into the skin? It's definitely there. Why do we have to go through the appeal process?
Thank you.
Go to the Superior Court of the United States of America, or the Supreme Court of the United States of America, excuse me, and we have to get a ruling. And the ruling is for the blue water. You know what? There's no such thing in my mind as a blue water vet and a brown water vet.
Thank you.
Because we were all exposed.
Thank you. And remember, like you have guys on the Iwo Jima and the Okinawa USS LPHs. They were miniature aircraft
Right.
carriers, marine
Right.
transports. Those Marines went. They fought in these positions in these areas, and then they came back and showered down on those ships. You know, did they not bring that back with them, with their clothing? You know, there's so many things that connect. You know, what's his name? Was it Abrams who died? His
Yeah,
son.
Abrams,
So,
no,
you know,
it was what's his name?
Nimitz.
No, it was.
Forget who it was.
Zumwalt.
Zumwalt.
His
Yeah,
son died of that.
yeah, exactly. You know, and they did everything they could to try to save him. Blood transfer. They took all his blood out of him, thinking that would, you know. And who else gets those kind of treatments?
Right.
Us? I don't think
I
so.
don't think so.
I don't think so. You know.
I think the mitigating factors that we're looking at today are very evident.
Right.
It's coming out. It's already out in the public. We got the problems we have at the VA medical centers. We got them at the regional offices. You know, the deception. That's what gets me. The
Yes.
deception.
Right. The
That's been
deceit.
the deceit. It's been ongoing for years and years and years. It's now time to say enough is enough.
Right.
We are human beings, but we are also the defenders of this country. We should be looked at in a different manner. I'm not saying that we're better than everybody else, but you know what? We're the cream of the crop.
Wow.
We're the ones that win.
You know, your statements about euthanasia are very correct.
Right.
70% of all those that served in Vietnam are dead. There are only 30% of us that are alive.
Right.
Now, how do we prevent that from happening from the returning vets from Afghanistan and Iraq?
You know.
And what differences do you see between the vets from Iraq and Afghanistan and the Vietnam veterans?
Well, you know, right now,
Or are there differences?
unfortunately, and it's a sad commentary, the best thing that happened was Phoenix. You know, the best thing that happened was Phoenix because now it's put all these representatives on notice, okay? And they're cleaning their hands. They want to give us every, you know, hey, you know, and they've known all along. They've known all along. You have these career politicians, they knew all along. They knew all along. And all of a sudden, because of Phoenix, okay, the Phoenix program, they now have to come, and so they're pushing, you know. And one other thing, I lost my hearing, okay, and they didn't want to give me. They said it'll be a year before you go. The VA is their only resource.
Mm-hmm.
So you know, hey, it's time to bring the chickens home, man.
You know, the whole thing about this, I think, you know, is that.
You know, returning veterans, I understand, only get 5 years of service.
Right, free.
Unless it is service connected.
Correct.
Now, what will happen to them at the 5-year period ends?
When the 5-year period ends, they're going to be taking that ever so loving that the lousy means test, and if they're working and they don't have a service-connected disability, then they're making too much money. They're cut off.
Medical treatment
Medical trip stops. And another thing that gets to me also is, if you are a veteran, in order for you, if you are a veteran from the Iraqi or the Afghani war, this thing about, well, if you're a reservist or if you're a guard and you didn't get deployed,
You got nothing coming.
you got nothing coming, you're not considered a veteran.
Well,
Come on, you wore the uniform of the United States, regardless of whether it was a reservist.
And Danny, so as you were saying, the way to fix this, how do we fix it?
we fix it through advocates like Joe, but there are so many talented veterans out there that have the education and the wherewithal, specifically the commitment, the motivation. They're out there. We need them to step up to the plate. We need them to come in and and pick it up, because guys like Joe have carried the baton, and it's time to start helping out, because there is a tremendous amount of veterans out there that can't cross that bridge for help. It's a psychological thing. It's the treatment and the resentment and a guilt. There's a lot of guilt for what? But until they address those issues, okay, they're always going to be there. And so we need individuals that want to make a commitment.
you know.
How do we train the young troops, the young Afghani Iraqi vets coming back?
They have to serve an
To have the
apprenticeship. Well, they
motivation.
should be assigned to guys like Joe. They need to find more Joes out there and put these guys with them and let them serve their apprenticeship and watch and learn. You know, theory's all fine and dandy. You know, I mean, look. We always talked about PTSD.
Right,
Okay,
correct.
now we know there's simple and complex. Okay, I'm a complex. You know, I've got issues, and I'm the first to admit that. How do I avoid my issues? By helping others and avoid dealing with mine. And when they're all gone, then I go to my corner and, you know, sleep with my light on and looking out. I'm watching on patrol at my house all night long. That's a fact. My kids don't know it. My wife does. But, you know, people say, you need to go. I can't. Because to me, it's so personal that if you're suffering, I'm going to go in there and get into the mothers. So we need to find individuals that have a stability and ability to articulate, who can write, who can read, research, and come forth.
How good are the schools that are training people in
I can't.
such as the USC?
You know what? There's all kinds of studies going on, but I couldn't tell you who's the best and what they're studying and if they're studying. I had a counselor down at the veterans, and I didn't like her. I made a statement, and it upset the group. If you go back to the history of the Vietnam War, there was that segregation coming on, okay? But they didn't want to hear that, okay? And I went through that in Vietnam, even though I was and so because I said that, they pulled me from that group, and I was upset. And then I had a one-on-one, and we just didn't connect, and they made me write an episode, and you know what? I don't ever want to go back. I don't ever want to go back. I don't want to relive. I don't want to tell my grandchildren. I don't want to go there, you know. And I get questions from my grandchildren all the time, you know, Grandpa, what's, you know, and well, I heard this and I heard, you know, and you know, Vietnam, we ended up being baby killers, huh? Now we know. I don't know about you guys, but growing up, my father made me watch the news, and I remember the North Vietnamese killing all these children. Mm-hmm. But somehow or other, in the course of that war, we became the baby killers because of the My Lai incident. So, you know, the hypocrisy, the contradictions are frustrating. Mm-hmm. Okay? My mantra every morning when I wake up is, I will pursue until I succeed. I was not born into this world in failure, nor does failure course in my veins. I am not a sheep in waiting to be prodded by my shepherd. I am a lion who refuses to eat, sleep, and talk to a bunch of sheep. The slaughterhouse is not my destiny. I will pursue until I succeed. Og Mandino, the world's greatest salesman. And that's my mantra. But you know, in the course of the day, I cry. And nobody knows, because I cry silently. And it's not that I'm ashamed, but it's just that, you know what? I'm tired of having to relive and sharing. What difference does it make for me to share? It's not going to impact on those that never have been to war, experienced war, and trauma and violence. You know, it's horrific, man.
Joe, what's your experience with the MSWs coming out of USC or other academic schools that are focusing on therapy for veterans in their training?
I think I've come across some veterans that have been, you know,
Academics.
Yeah, that have been interviewed by these new MSWs, especially at the vet centers. That's where they go. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm not a very big fan of the vet centers at all.
Okay. How do we fix them?
We fix them. We get rid of them.
Right.
We get rid of them. Want to know why? Because they're telling the guy. They're telling some of the vets that are out there, oh, you don't have PTSD, but yet the guy has nightmares. He's got flashbacks. He's got all the symptoms that of a true PTSD
Classic.
Classic. It's just what it is.
Yeah.
But yet they're coming out there and they're telling us, oh, you didn't see enough combat. Oh, you didn't see enough. You didn't. What? How much do you have to see in order for it to be effective? In order for it to affect the individual?
So if we get rid of the vet centers, what modality do we use for treatment?
Well, then we
of
go
returning
to,
veterans.
Then we go to nonprofit organizations that are
Qualified,
funded, that are funded and qualified by
Recognized.
grant or whatever it takes, and have those people who really care take care of the guys and gals that are coming back today.
And how do we distinguish the ones that are qualified?
Well, that's you know, when you take your state boards, that I feel that should be modified and also redone to a point where they should be told and be schooled on what the veteran community is all about. And see, they're not doing that, Ruben. They're not doing that. You know, oh yeah, they'll get okay, but you got to watch out for these class of people, and you got to watch out for these class of people, and you got to know how to deal with this class of people. But they don't really focus and really look at the problems that confront the veteran, whether it's a Vietnam vet, Desert Storm vet, World War II vet, Korea vet. You know, I had a Korean War vet that came to me. 6.5 years I worked on his plane. All they were giving him was 10% for hearing loss. We had put in for PTSD for this guy because he had seen some things post Korea, way after Korea. He was in the late 50s, early 60s. He saw a lot there. He was over there by Freedom Bridge at the 38th parallel. There was a lot of stuff going on there. And they denied this poor guy. And last week, this couple came in to see me again. And I'm saying to myself, oh man, do we have to fight more now or what? What do I have to do? But when they pulled out their envelope and said, look what happened, Joe. We ended up getting that individual 50% on PTSD.
Ruben,
It took 6.5 years.
6.5 years.
And Danny?
27 jobs in 1 year. And I got along better with inmates and convicted felons better than I did with my own staff, with my staff. I got along better with them. And what I found out in state, I worked for the parole division, you never saw Vietnam veterans on the supervisory position. Very minuscule. But ironically, I had a lot of the draft dodgers that were in positions of authority and decision making. And they had a hard time with the Vietnam veteran employee. And I don't know how I survived there. I really don't. But I got along. It was to a point where they said, well, Garcia's into hug a thug. I said, no, I'm not. I'm into connecting. I understand them because I can relate to them. I can't relate to you. And when I told the psychiatrist from the VA, they sat back. Recently I had to see a psychiatrist, and she said that's really interesting. And I said, it may be to you, but to me, it's survival. We're great survivalists. Many of us, you know what, we crossed that line where we wanted to blow our brains out, but some reason or other, we didn't. But yet there's many that did. But for some reason or other, it's our survival instinct that was instilled in us by the military. I don't know how to explain
Now,
that.
a lot of troops are coming back. The first thing they want is jobs.
Right.
This coming week, Mayor Garcetti of Los Angeles will be announcing a $10,000 veterans initiative to hire 10,000 veterans. Does employment prevent the onset of PTSD, or how does that work?
You know what? Here's my take. If you're going to hire someone, and you know he's a veteran like that, I think there should be some kind of support counseling, okay? Therapeutic counseling to coincide with that, because in everyday work you're going to have disagreement, okay? And some can take it to a level that you want to go to, and others, and then you get. Let's face it. There are a lot of people in government that are anti-war, and it's not that we're all for war, but we're identified as warmongers. We're not.
Because we serve.
We commit. Yeah, we made a commitment. We want the future of our country. God bless America. It's like I know people that are ashamed to say I'm proud to be an American, and it hurts me. I mean, we're at a point in time. I think it's time that we stop beating down on the Anglo. I mean, the Anglos of yesteryear, they're gone. If you look at today's, many of the Anglos have supported us, and yet we beat them to death. We beat them to death. We they're no good. They're this, and where's that coming from? Why? I don't know.
How do we change it, Danny?
Education. Education. You know, we have a responsibility as grandfathers. We are men of wisdom who have only learned from the depths of our ignorance. And because of that, we need to turn around and educate our children's children to understand that we're all equal.
Right. In retrospect of all that, going back to what
You know,
you
we're
said-
getting to the end of the session of the show, so do you have any final statements, Danny?
Yeah, my final statement is, you know, Joe, you're an old friend that I met for the first time, and you know, we love you, man. You're a very special man, you know, and you're one of those guys. I always say that whenever I meet him, that when God made you, it's obviously took a little time because of you, many of us are beginning to find our way back. You know, and that's important, Joe, that you know that, you know, because we know you have your valleys, and you're an amazing man that can endure, you know, psychotherapy, man. You know, these psychiatrists, they eventually end up seeing psychiatrists. Well, they forget about guys like you. I mean, you hear it all the time, and yet you manage to store your personal and fend for us that are weak and unable to, and I thank you for that.
Joe, do you have any final statements?
You know, it's been for me. It's not a job. What I do, for me, it's something that I love to do. Helping our comrades, our vets, male and female. I think that there's a lot of work to be done to fix the system, but I think that if we get tenacious and we continue to do what we're doing, let's get in there and let's work it. This demonstration that we want coming off the ground, this is where they're gonna see, and I believe this wholly. The VA in this country is going to see that it's that old adage, what other movie is, I've had enough and I'm not gonna take any more. Well, that's where we're at now. That's where we're at now, and I can assure you that this is not a game. This is the lives of each and every one of these guys that I deal with. From World War II all the way through the present. I've seen it all. I've helped as many people as I can, and yeah, Danny, I'm going to continue to do it. I'm not going to retire anytime soon.
Let's learn from the experiences of the past. Let us learn from what they have taught us. Let us move forward to take care and greet and welcome home the returning millions of veterans returning from Afghanistan and Iraq. Thank you very much.